Silver did not miss this rally. It was never invited to it. Gold has been pressing into record territory. The financial channels cannot stop talking about it. And silver has been sitting on the tarmac while its big brother climbs. If you own silver, or you have been thinking about owning it, that gap probably bothers you. It might even scare you a little. You were told these two metals move together, and one of them just broke the agreement. Here is the real reason, and I am not going to make you wait for it. Gold and silver answer to different buyers, and those buyers run on different clocks. Buried inside the weekly positioning reports that almost nobody outside the trading world ever reads, there is a split you can see with your own eyes. The fast money, the headline-chasing funds, are crowded into gold and barely present in silver at all. Meanwhile, the commercial players and the physical buyers, the ones who actually handle metal for a living, have been quietly accumulating silver while the cameras point the other way. Gold is moving because its buyer showed up. Silver has not moved because its buyer works on a slower clock, and that clock has not struck yet. That is the whole answer. The rest of this video is the proof, and the proof is where it gets genuinely strange. In my years around the gold and silver world, I have learned that the most useful question is never what is the price doing. It is who is doing the buying. Let me tell you about a man I think about when this subject comes up, because he asked me that question in a way I never forgot. He is a retired crop duster pilot out of Lubbock, Texas. Spent his working life flying a spray plane a few feet off the cotton, up before dawn because you spray in the still air before the wind picks up and carries your work onto the neighbor's field. A man like that learns two things down in his bones. He learns to read forces nobody else can see, and he learns that timing is not a preference. It is the difference between a job done right and a mess you cannot take back. He owned both metals in his retirement account, and he called the gold and silver in it his two engines. And during a stretch just like this one, when gold was setting records and silver was going nowhere, he said something that cut right to it. He said, "One engine is running hot, and one will not turn over, and nobody will tell me why. So I want to give him, and you, the answer nobody on the financial channels bothers with. It starts with a report most people have never heard of. Every week, the futures regulator in Washington publishes something called the Commitments of Traders Report. It sorts everyone holding gold and silver futures on the COMEX into camps. One camp is called managed money. Those are the hedge funds, the momentum traders, the fast crowd. Another camp is the commercials. Those are the miners, the refiners, the dealers, the institutions that touch actual metal as a business. The fast crowd trades headlines. The commercials live in the physical market. When you split the market open like that, the mystery of silver's lag stops being a mystery at all. Look at what each metal is to each camp. Gold, right now, is the greatest headline machine in finance. Central banks buying at a historic clip. Governments quarreling over reserves. Records falling one after another. Every one of those stories pulls the fast money in because momentum funds are built to chase exactly that. Silver has none of it. There is no silver desk on the evening business shows. No central bank announces a silver reserve program. So the managed money that came flooding into gold simply never showed up in silver. Speculative positioning in silver has been sitting light, thin, almost sleepy. And a market the fast money has not entered is a market the fast money has not lifted. Silver is not broken. Silver is unattended. But here is where it gets interesting, because the other camp is doing the opposite. While the headlines pull the crowd toward gold, the commercial and physical side of the silver market has been quietly gathering metal. Refiners, industrial buyers, dealers watching their own shelves. These are not people who buy because a chart looks exciting. They buy because they need ounces and because they can count what is left in the vaults. The fast money reads news. The slow money reads inventory. And the inventory story in silver is the part almost nobody gets to, which is exactly why I want you to have it. Start with where silver even comes from. Most of the world's new silver is not mined on purpose. It comes out of the ground as a side effect, a byproduct of digging for copper and zinc and lead, which means that when silver's price rises, miners cannot simply answer with more silver, because silver was never the reason the mine existed. Supply is nearly deaf to price. Now put that against demand. Solar panels, electronics, electric vehicles. Modern industry eats silver in tiny amounts spread across billions of devices, and those flecks are too small and too scattered to ever gather back. Gold gets saved in vaults for centuries. Silver gets spent, consumed, and is gone. The world has now run years of back-to-back structural deficits in silver, demand outrunning fresh supply again and again, with the gap covered by draining above-ground stockpiles. You can only cover a gap from the cupboard for so long. The cupboard is what the slow money watches, and the cupboard is emptying. Now, has this movie played before, silver trailing gold, and everyone declaring it dead weight? It has, and I have watched the pattern more than once. go back to the great metals bull of the 1970s. Through the early years of that run, gold led and silver dragged behind, and plenty of smart-sounding people said silver had lost its monetary meaning. Then, late in the decade, silver woke up and compressed years of catching up into a stretch of months, running so hard into the 1980 peak that it briefly outpaced everything. Silver did in months what gold had taken years to do. The lag was not a failure of the thesis. The lag was the setup. That is not a promise that it repeats on any schedule, but it tells you the quiet stretch and the catch-up are two chapters of one story, not two different stories. There is a simple way to measure this relationship, and it is worth knowing. The gold-to-silver ratio. How many ounces of silver 1 ounce of gold buys? The men who wrote America's first coinage law set the two metals at roughly 15-1. At the 1980 peak, the market compressed to around 17. By the early 1990s, it had stretched out near 100. In the panic of 2020, it spiked to the highest reading in centuries, around 125, and then snapped back hard as silver nearly doubled off its low in a matter of months. Every time in modern history that band has stretched to an extreme, it has eventually come back the other way, and the comeback has been violent. With gold sprinting ahead of silver in this latest leg, the band is stretched again. Where it finally lets go, I cannot tell you. That it is stretched is simply arithmetic. Understand who benefits while you wait and worry. The big trading desks earn their keep on your churn, and a discouraged silver holder dumping metal into a quiet market is their favorite customer. The financial media runs on the gold headline because the gold headline sells, and a story about vault inventories and positioning reports does not. So the one metal where the patient, physical, professional money is accumulating gets described to you as the one that failed. Meanwhile, the most conservative institutions on earth have been telling you what they think of paper promises. Central banks have been buying gold at a record pace, 3 years running, at roughly double the pace of the decade before, and that buying accelerated after Western governments froze another nation's reserves. That freeze taught every finance ministry a lesson they will not unlearn. A reserve held as someone else's promise can vanish with a signature, and metal in your own vault is no one's promise. That is where you come in, because what those institutions are doing for their nations, ordinary Americans can do for their retirement, and this is not just for insiders. If you have $100,000 or more in a 401k or an IRA, there is a way to move a portion of it into physical gold and silver inside the retirement account you already have, without taxes and without penalties. It is called a self-directed precious metals IRA, and we put together the free Retirement Wealth Protection Guide to walk you through exactly how it works, in plain English, for American retirees who want to protect and diversify their hard-earned wealth. It comes from our family to yours. No obligation, nothing to buy. If you are watching this on your TV, just scan the QR code on your screen. If you are on your phone or your computer, go to readfamilyguide.com. Get the guide, read it at your kitchen table, and let us get back to the evidence, because the next piece is the one I most want you to see. That piece is the physical drain, and it is not even the biggest headline that never gets read. On the COMEX, the pile of registered silver, the metal actually stamped available for delivery, was drawn down sharply during a stretch of heavy delivery demand, sinking toward lows that made the professionals sit up straight before partially rebuilding. Across the ocean in London, the picture may be tighter still. The headline vault numbers look enormous, but analysts who track it estimate that the free float, the silver not already spoken for by funds and allocated accounts, is only a modest slice of what the headlines suggest. Those are estimates, so hold them loosely. But the direction is not in dispute, and there was already one acute squeeze in London's free float in recent memory that forced metal to be rushed into Comet. Then look east, because the drain has a destination. Silver in Shanghai has been trading at a steep, sustained premium over London and New York, several times what it costs to ship metal there. A premium like that is a magnet. It pulls physical silver out of Western vaults month after month. And China has moved to restrict silver exports, choking off one of the channels London had been using to refill its own shelves. So Western inventories are being drawn down at one end and resupplied more slowly at the other. None of that shows up in the price the fast money trades. All of it shows up in the cupboard the slow money counts. If you want proof that the paper price and the physical metal are truly two different things, you do not have to take my word. In the panic of March 2020, the price of gold in New York futures tore violently apart from the price of real bars in London. The paper market and the physical market disagreed, hard, at the same moment. Planes were chartered to haul bullion across the Atlantic. Vault crews scrambled. It took weeks to stitch the two prices back together. Rare moments like that pull the curtain back. The futures price you watch is a claim on metal, And there have long been far more paper claims floating around than deliverable ounces sitting behind them, with the short side of silver historically concentrated in the hands of a few large players. In calm times, nobody notices. In tight times, the metal is what settles the argument. Now let me give you the honest part, because you deserve the caution before the case, and a man who will not name the risk is not a man to trust with your retirement. I do not know when silver catches up. Nobody does, and anyone who names the weak is selling you something. Silver can lag longer than seems rational, and it is a rougher ride than gold even when it is right. Go look at 2011. The exchange raised margin requirements several times in quick succession, and silver fell by roughly a third in a matter of days while nothing about supply or demand changed at all. That is the nature of a small market with big players in it. It can be shaken violently on its way to wherever it is going. This is a case built on positioning and inventories in history. It is not a guarantee, and it is not personal financial advice. What the risk means in practice is simple. Never own so much, or own it in such a way, that a shakeout can force your hand. Now watch what happens when the two clocks finally line up, because this is the part the patient viewer earns. The silver market is tiny. Set beside the gold market, it is a farm pond next to a lake, and set beside the bond market, it is barely a puddle. The fast money that piled into gold is currently absent from silver, which means the fuel for a silver move is not spent. It is sitting in the truck. If even a fraction of the momentum crowd rotates from a crowded gold trade toward the cheap, lagging metal next door, that wall of money has to squeeze through a doorway built for a market a fraction of the size, and into a market where the deliverable metal has already been quietly drained. My crop duster friend would recognize the physics instantly. He spent 30 years waiting on still air because he knew the wind does not care about your schedule, and the man who sprays into a gusting crosswind ruins the very field he came to save. Then the morning comes when the flag hangs dead straight, and everything he waded through pays for itself in one low pass. Silver is a still air trade. The waiting is not the trade failing. The waiting is the trade. And here is the recognition I want to leave you with. The thing my years watching this market have burned into me. The people closest to the metal are already where they need to be. The commercial accumulation is happening now, in the quiet. The vault drawdowns are happening now. The pattern reading money always positions in the silence, and the crowd always arrives after the move has made the evening news. By the time silver's catch-up is the story your neighbor tells you about at the fence line, the widest part of that stretched ratio will already have closed, and the people who understood the two clocks will be the ones the latecomers are buying from. You are watching a video about silver's lag while the lag still exists. That puts you in rare company, and what you do with that position is the only part of this story you control. So let me speak plainly about what a retiree should take from all this. Principles, not prescriptions. Own real metal, not somebody's paper promise, because March 2020 showed you which one settles the argument. Size the position so that a violent shakeout, and there will be shakeouts, cannot force you to sell at the worst moment. And judge silver on its own clock, the slow clock of deficits and vaults and industry, not on the fast clock of headlines that were never about silver in the first place. The metal does not need to be rescued. It needs to be understood, and then it needs time. Which brings me to the last thing, and it is about more than you. Everything we have talked about, the stretched ratio, the drained vaults, the institutions quietly choosing metal over promises, bears on the wealth you spent a lifetime building, and the wealth your children and grandchildren will one day inherit from you. Protecting and diversifying a portion of that is what the free Retirement Wealth Protection Guide is for. And if you have $100,000 or more in a retirement account, and you mention that you watched this full video, our team will also set you up with a free one-on-one educational web conference, a real conversation. No obligation, nothing to buy. From our family to yours. And here is the honest reason not to put it off. There is no deadline, and I will not invent one. But the calm stretch, the stretch when silver is unloved and nothing feels urgent, is precisely when this kind of decision is still easy, still cheap, and still entirely on your terms. If you are watching this on your TV, just scan the QR code on your screen. If you are on your phone or your computer, go to readfamilyguide.com. My friend in Lubbock had a saying about his old spray plane, and I will leave you with it because it is the whole video in one line. He said the plane was never late. The wind was just early. Silver has not failed to follow gold. Silver was never flying gold's route. It answers to different buyers on a different clock, and those buyers are loading up in the quiet while the crowd stares at the metal making headlines. One engine is already running hot. The other is fueled, checked, and waiting on still air. When it finally turns over, history says it does not taxi, it climbs.